My name is Lily Herrera. I was 15, just a regular high school student trying to fit in. I liked music, hanging out with friends,
and scrolling through social media whenever I had a free moment. Life felt normal, or at least, I thought it did. One night, after trying vaping again, despite warnings from my parents, my body betrayed me. I collapsed in my bedroom, my lungs refusing to work, my heart slowing down. I didn't scream. I barely had the strength to breathe. Suddenly, everything went quiet. My room, my posters, my phone, all disappeared in an instant. I was no longer lying on my bed. I was floating in a vast emptiness, filled with a soft golden light. It was warm, welcoming, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And then I saw him, Jesus, but he didn't look like the pictures I had seen in church. He was radiant, not just with light, but with something I can only describe as presence. Every molecule of my being seemed to recognize him, and an overwhelming sense of peace washed over me. "You are not done," he said. His voice wasn't words spoken aloud. It was in my mind, my soul, every part of me. "There is something you must see, something you must understand before you return." I wanted to argue, to stay in this place of perfect calm, but he held me with a look that left no room for refusal. And then the vision began. I saw my life again, but this time, it was connected to every scroll, every post, every like I had ever given. I saw the web, the invisible threads of attention, envy, and judgment that ran through social media. It pulsed, like a dark heartbeat, reaching into teens everywhere, feeding on our insecurities, our loneliness, our desire to be seen. "Lily," he said, "this is the truth. Social media is not neutral. It shapes hearts, molds identities, and often whispers lies about who you are and what you are worth." I saw my friends, my classmates, and even strangers, their faces lit by screens, their expressions tense, anxious, craving, validation. Shadows clung to them, shadows I could feel pressing down on my chest even in this light. "The darkness is patient," Jesus said. "It seeks to steal the joy I placed in hearts before they were ever aware of it." I felt fear not for myself, but for everyone I knew, for Gen Z, for my generation. Then the vision shifted. I was outside my bedroom, looking at the city, at millions of other teens, and I saw it. The same web extending across towns, across countries, across continents. Screens glowed like tiny beacons, pulling hearts into comparison, anger, and envy. The whispers were clear now. "You are not enough. Look at them. Hate them. Be jealous." I realized that it wasn't just entertainment. It was feeding on our attention, shaping our thoughts, nudging us toward bitterness without us even knowing. And then Jesus reached out, his light wrapping around me. "You are being given a chance to go back, to see, to speak, to warn. But you must understand this first. The power to resist is already within you. It begins with awareness. It begins with choice." I felt his words settle deep in my chest, like a seed, a small spark of determination. I wanted to stay in his light forever, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. There were lessons to carry, truths to share. The next moment, I was no longer floating above my room. I was somewhere else entirely, somewhere terrifying, yet strangely familiar. I was standing in a city full of screens, but the streets were empty. Every billboard, every phone, every tablet was glowing, streaming endless images, videos, and messages. Faces flickered across the screens. Friends, classmates, celebrities, but none of them smiled. Their eyes were hollow. Their mouths moved, but their words were not their own. I could feel the pull, the constant tug, as if the screens were tiny hands grasping at their hearts. Jesus appeared beside me. He did not speak. Instead, he showed me. I saw myself scrolling through my phone the night I died, watching videos, comparing my life to others. And each time I looked away, each time I felt jealousy, anxiety, or anger, a dark thread attached itself to my heart. It wasn't just me, every teen was connected to these threads, these invisible lines that fed into a greater darkness. It was subtle, insidious. It promised connection, validation, happiness, but it delivered isolation, fear, and craving. "Young Lily," Jesus said. And this time his words came as both warmth and weight, pressing truth into me. The world you see online is a shadow of reality. It steals identity. It confuses love for attention. It poisons the heart without it even noticing. I looked closer and saw the shadowy things behind each screen, dark, whispering forms. They murmured lies. "You are not enough. You are worthless. You deserve envy. You should hate them." The whispers were low, seductive, insidious. I realized they were not just in the screens, they were in the hearts of everyone who gave their attention to the feed. Then the scene changed again. I was back in my bedroom, but I was outside myself, watching my friends through their phones. One by one, I saw them react to posts. A little spike of pride when someone liked their selfie. A pang of jealousy when someone else got more attention. A twist of anger at a comment they didn't like. And every reaction sent a thread out into the web, weaving them tighter into the darkness. It was mesmerizing, terrifying, and I could feel it trying to reach for me. I understood now why I had felt that constant anxiety, that emptiness that night. I wasn't alone. We were all being pulled in. Jesus reached for my hand. His light seemed to push back the shadow, the pull from the web. "This is not just your story," he said. "It is the story of your generation, Gen Z. The attention you give determines your freedom. Every like, every view, every scroll is a choice. Each choice can build a wall around your soul, or it can open a door to light." I felt the weight of responsibility crash over me. I was just 15, and yet he was telling me that what I did, how I chose to engage, mattered beyond what I could see. Then I saw the other teens who had died from vaping, accidents, and other tragedies, faces I recognized, faces I didn't. They were trapped in the same shadow, unable to see the light, because their attention had been stolen before their time. "The darkness seeks to claim more than hearts," Jesus said softly. "It seeks to claim life itself, when it can." My stomach turned as I realized how close I had come. My own death had been just a step, a warning, a bridge to understanding. I had glimpsed the consequences, not only for myself, but for all my peers. And then, in the middle of the city, I saw something unexpected. A group of teens standing apart from the screens, laughing, talking, helping each other. Their faces were lit, but not by devices. They looked alive, in a way that the others were not. "These are the ones who see the truth," Jesus whispered. "They have learned to guard their hearts, to measure their attention, to choose reality over illusion. They are small in number, but they are free." A spark of hope ignited in me. If even a few could resist, maybe I could too. Maybe we all could. The vision began to fade. I felt myself being pulled back toward my body, back toward the room I had left. The screens dimmed, the shadows retreated, but the lessons remained, burning in my mind. I could feel the tug of life returning, the pull of reality calling me back to pain, to struggle, to choices. I didn't want to leave that place of understanding, of purpose. I wanted to stay in the light forever, but I knew that was not what I was meant to do. I woke gasping, the sharp sting of a hospital bed pressing against me. My throat burned, a tube down my windpipe made speaking impossible, and my chest ached like fire had been set there. Machines beeped urgently around me. I blinked against the bright fluorescent lights, trying to make sense of the chaos. Nurses were rushing past, shouting numbers and calling doctors. A cold sweat covered my body. My side was throbbing. My fingers clutched at the blanket, but I couldn't move. Somehow, amidst the panic, I remembered the city of screens, the shadows, the teens trapped by their devices. The lessons Jesus had shown me were still vivid, burning into my consciousness. The truth was clear. My death from vaping hadn't been the end. It was a doorway, a warning, a chance to see what the world was really doing to my generation. My attention, my mind, my choices, they were all being harvested by something dark. I had a glimpse of what could happen if I didn't change. A nurse leaned over me, her eyes wide. "She's awake! She's awake!" she yelled, startling me. I tried to respond, but all that came out was a weak gag. My mother appeared in the doorway, her face pale, tears streaming freely. She ran to my bedside, her hands shaking as she tried to hold mine. I squeezed back as best I could, trying to convey I was alive, but I had seen more than anyone could imagine, more than anyone wanted to see. Jesus' words returned to me. Every choice is a thread. Guard your heart. Protect your attention. Choose mercy. Choose love. Even lying there, my body broken, my mind was sharp. I understood now that the devices I had loved, my phone, my social media, the constant feeds, were not neutral. They were predators. They didn't just steal time, they captured the heart, twisted desires, and warped perception. Every like, every scroll, every comparison sent another thread to the shadows, another chance for darkness to grow. I thought of my friends, my peers, all scrolling late into the night, chasing validation that left them emptier each time. I had been one of them. My death had spared me, but only barely. And if I returned to the world as I had been, it would consume me, just like it consumed so many others. I had been shown the stakes. I had been shown the truth. And now, I had a choice. To live differently. To be awake. To help others see what I had seen. A doctor entered, speaking urgently. Her vitals are stabilizing. She's lucky, he said, glancing at the monitors. I could barely nod, but inside, I was overwhelmed with purpose. My own survival wasn't just about me. It was a message, a warning to those who had not yet been pulled into the same darkness. The shadows behind the screens were patient, relentless, and they didn't need permission to claim a soul. They only needed attention. Time passed, and I recovered physically, though the scars remained on my chest and side. But the mental mark, the lesson from the other side, was permanent. I started noticing the patterns everywhere. Friends checking notifications before words of kindness, teens arguing over posts, jealousy, and rage spreading faster than I could imagine. I began talking to them, carefully, about what I had seen, about the traps, the shadows, the threads of darkness. Most didn't believe me. Some laughed, but a few listened. Their eyes widened, and I could feel their hearts opening just slightly to the possibility of change. Jesus' final message echoed in my mind. You do not have to fall into the web. You can resist, and those who see the light can guide others. It was not an easy truth. It was not comforting, but it was real, and I understood, more deeply than I ever had, that Gen Z, my generation, was at a crossroads. Social media, in all its shiny appeal, was not harmless. It was a battlefield for the heart. Every teen scrolling, every fleeting thought, every comparison, it mattered. And my glimpse of heaven had made that terrifyingly clear. I realized I had a responsibility, not just to survive, but to awaken others, not by scolding them, not by shaming, but by showing that there was a way to use attention wisely, to connect without losing yourself, to love without needing constant affirmation from a screen. My life had been stolen in part by vaping, but my message, my witness, could reach thousands if I shared it. The choice was still theirs. I couldn't force it, but I could warn them. I could tell them the truth. Even in the hospital bed, exhausted, bruised, and sore, I felt something extraordinary. It was a burning determination, a purpose that no machine, no shadow, no post could steal. The world would try to pull my generation into darkness, but I had seen the light, and if I could survive, if I could awaken, maybe others could too. Jesus had shown me the reality of social media, the traps of Gen Z, the threads that bind hearts to shadows, and I would not be silent. Days turned into weeks. I was physically recovering, but my mind was always elsewhere, replaying the visions, the warnings, the lessons from the other side. I began documenting everything, writing down every detail. I could remember the shadows behind the screens, the whispers of envy and anger, the way social media preyed on my generation's insecurities. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a battlefield, and too few realized it. I started speaking to friends, classmates, anyone who would listen. At first, they laughed, brushing it off as some near-death fantasy. a dream someone might have after a hospital scare. But when I told them the exact feelings I experienced, the suffocating pull of comparison, the tiny seed of bitterness growing every time we scrolled, they paused. Their eyes reflected recognition. I knew they had felt it too, even if they hadn't admitted it. Jesus' message echoed constantly. Guard your hearts. Protect your attention. Every moment you spend feeding the shadows strengthens them. Choose light, even when it is hard. I realized that it wasn't just a warning about social media in general, it was about how every choice, no matter how small, shaped the world around me. A careless comment, a cruel post, a moment of envy, it all fed the shadows. I had to teach my peers to recognize it, to fight for their own hearts before the darkness could take root. I started small. I would gather friends in my room, away from screens, and we would talk about what mattered: family, faith, love, and truth. We'd put our phones down, sometimes for hours. We shared real thoughts, real struggles, real laughter. It was difficult. Almost everyone was addicted to the endless scroll, the constant dopamine hits. But slowly, some began to listen. They began to understand that attention wasn't harmless. It was power, and they had been giving it away freely to forces they couldn't see. One evening, as I watched the sunset, I felt a presence, gentle and warm. It was the same feeling I had when I first saw Jesus, the same deep calm that had washed over me in the light. I closed my eyes and remembered the lesson most clearly. You cannot save everyone, but you can guide the willing. Light shines, and those who seek it will find it. It was a reminder that my mission wasn't to control others, but to offer them the chance to choose differently, to see the light amidst the darkness of constant cations, and endless comparisons. The more I shared, the more I realized how pervasive the problem was. Social media wasn't just a distraction. It was altering the very way my generation thought, felt, and interacted. Anxiety, depression, self-doubt, they were fuel for the shadows. And yet, there was hope. Those willing to unplug, to seek truth, to nurture their hearts rather than feed envy, were capable of resisting. I had seen the alternative, and it was real, it was beautiful, and it was possible. I began recording messages, posting them carefully online, using the same platforms that trapped my generation, but this time, to share wisdom instead of feeding the shadows. I talked about my near-death experience, what I had seen, what Jesus had revealed to me. Some mocked, some ignored, but some listened, and I realized that even one person turning their attention from the shadows to the light could make a difference. One soul awake could inspire another. Then came the moment I had been dreading, and hoping for the moment when my voice reached beyond my circle. A teacher noticed my dedication and invited me to speak to the school assembly. Standing in front of hundreds of teens, I recounted the NDE, the warning about social media, the shadows, the threads, the poison of envy and anger. I could see the reactions in their faces: skepticism, confusion, curiosity, but some were wide-eyed, nodding, understanding more than I could express. I realized then that the message had begun to spread. Jesus had shown me the stakes, the reality of what had ensnared my peers, but he also showed me the remedy: awareness, love, and vigilance. Social media was a tool, neither good nor evil in itself, but it demanded conscious use. Every teen could choose to fight for their attention, their heart, their relationships. Every choice mattered. Every action could either feed the shadows or nurture the light. As I left the stage that day, a warmth filled me, the same warmth I had felt in that other world, a reassurance that what I had endured, what I had survived, had meaning. I wasn't just a survivor, I was a messenger. I had been given a second chance to warn my generation and to illuminate the path. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty: the battle for Gen Z's hearts wasn't over, but the light was stronger than any shadow, if only we chose to see it. And so, I continue, sharing my story, living deliberately, choosing attention wisely, loving deeply, and guarding the hearts of those who might otherwise be lost. My name is Maya Rivera. I died once, but now I live with purpose, and the warning I carry is real. Guard your hearts, protect your attention, and remember the shadows are patient. but the light is eternal.